Are your photos feeling a little off? Are they not looking exactly how you'd want them to? From personal experience and spending years looking at thousands upon thousands of images from other photographers, these are the 5 most common mistakes that you're probably making, and it's ruining your photography. The first mistake I see a lot of photographers make is shooting in auto all the time. And you're probably thinking, Paul, what's wrong with auto? Auto is great. And the answer to that is yes, it is, but only if you really know how to use it. Letting your camera make all of your decisions for you doesn't give you any room to actually bring your real creative vision to life. Your camera is only going to go for a technically correct exposure and doesn't allow you to make any changes in terms of how you'd like your image to look straight out of camera. Fortunately, the solution to this is relatively simple. Stop shooting in full auto. If you don't want to make the jump to full manual just yet, you have plenty of options like, for example, shutter priority or aperture priority that allows you to take control of the aperture to control your depth of field while the camera figures out the other 2 settings for you. And if you're still not happy with the results you're getting, use exposure compensation. But ideally, if you really want to learn photography properly and improve your skills, learn to shoot in full manual. Slight mini tip here, if you're going to do aperture priority, use a wide aperture for a narrow depth of field. Think something like f2.8 or below. Mistake number 2, over editing and also under editing. I feel like a mistake that I see a lot of beginner and even intermediate photographers make is they like to over edit their photos. What you need to realize here is editing is to enhance the photo, not fix it. So ideally, you're paying really close attention to what you're shooting while you're in the field and getting it as close as you can in camera, and then using editing to enhance that image and bring out what you were originally trying to photograph. And then you're using editing to enhance the photo and bring your original vision more to life rather than fix exposure mistakes or fix framing mistakes. Those things are great, and editing can definitely help with that. However, editing is meant to enhance a photo. Editor Paul here from the future, and I know you're probably kind of confused because I'm talking about enhancing a photo and not fixing it with editing. And if you're new to photography, you're probably thinking, well, Paul, this photo is very underexposed and it looks like you're fixing it. What's going on here? This is a very common technique, not just in landscape photography, but in just photography in general, where you shoot underexposed intentionally in order to retain highlight detail and keep your highlights from being blown out. With most modern cameras, you have plenty of dynamic range in the shadows so that you can bring that exposure back up in the shadows in post while still retaining detail in your highlights and not allowing them to be blown out. As a result, giving you good dynamic range throughout the entire photo. And that's what's going on here. It's a very common photography technique. Although it may seem like I'm contradicting my point of enhancing and not fixing a photo, this was done very intentionally. And you'll find it happening in a lot of photography circles. So hopefully that's helpful. Back to the show. Mistake number 3. Your composition is flat. Composition is one of the most key and important elements in photography. It tells the viewer where to look in your image by guiding the eye to your intended subject. But if you do not compose correctly, people are going to be confused, they won't be 100% sure what they're supposed to look at, and they can find themselves distracted by elements in the photo that you did not originally intend for them to even see. The easy fix here, learn composition. Specifically, 2 things: the rule of thirds, which looks like this, and leading lines, which can look like this. The basics of the rule of thirds is to put interesting points in your photo on the intersections of the lines in this grid, and ideally to not center frame things. Now, I tend to break this second rule. I love to center frame things and I love making things as symmetrical as I can, but you gotta know the rules in order to break them. So with composition, pay attention to your rule of thirds. I would recommend turning on the grid in your camera to be able to see where you're putting things in the frame. With leading lines, think about the scene you're trying to photograph and how you can use lines in the scene to create depth, things that go into the photograph rather than sit on top of the photograph. You want lines in your frame that will draw the viewer's attention to your intended subject or subjects. If you have multiple subjects, you can arrange them in your photo using the rule of thirds to make sure that they are on the lines of the grid or on intersecting points. If they're just floating in space, it's not a visually pleasing image, and you'll find people just scrolling past your work and moving on to something that's more interesting. So fix your composition. Mistake number 4, ignoring the direction of the light. This is a mistake that I see people make all the time. Quite often they think that an interesting looking subject is enough to make a good photo, and they don't stop to think about the light. When in fact, light is what makes or breaks a photo. If you want your photography to really stand out, you need to stop paying so much attention to your subject as an object and pay attention to the light that is hitting your subject. Ask yourself these questions. Where is the light coming from? What color is the light? Is it hard light, meaning harsh shadows, or is it soft light that can tend to wrap around a subject? If you're shooting outdoors, pay attention to where the sun is at. Is it straight overhead in the sky and harsh light that creates harsh shadows? Or is it golden hour, soft light? It's excellent for portraits or for lighting up mountains in a scene. If you're shooting portraits, there's things to take into consideration here. Is it front lit? Is it backlit? Is it side lit? If the light is harsh, backlighting 9 times out of 10 is what's going to work best for creating a solid image. What quality is the light? To summarize this, you need to pay just as much, if not more, attention to the light that is hitting your subject as you are to your actual subject. Because paying close attention to the light in your image, to the light that's hitting your subject, is what's going to make or break your image. Mistake number 5, comparing yourself to others instead of growing. This is a mistake that I have made for years and years and years on end in my photographic journey. Always looking at the work of other people and thinking, man, I can't do that, or man, I wish I was this guy, or I wish I was that good, when in fact what I should have been focusing on was, okay, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm seeing that I want to do. What are they doing, and how can I learn to do the same thing? This is a great way to grow by studying the work of others, but the mistake that I see most people make is they compare themselves, and instead of growing, they just feel inferior and like they want to give up. I've made this mistake. Sometimes I still make this mistake, but when you stay in the trap of comparison, you won't actually feel the drive to go out and make stuff. So stop comparing and start studying. If this was helpful, do me a favor, don't just leave. Next week's video is going to be all about making your photos as cinematic as possible, even with cheap gear. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, then do me a favor, like, subscribe, all the things the popular YouTubers tell you to do, and leave a comment down below. Let me know which of these mistakes you found yourself doing most often. I know I myself have made all 5, and even just recently have broken some rather bad habits when it comes to photography. So let's talk about it in the comments down below. I'd love to engage with you guys. So, with all that said, I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.